the relationship that we have with pain and suffering. It's a very difficult aspect of human existence. We cannot, no matter how much we try, we cannot avoid or bypass painful situations, and sometimes even more than that, the suffering that comes along with them. But there is something I once heard that I want to share now, which is that in life or in our journey of our existence, pain is something inevitable, but suffering is our choice. We cannot avoid pain in our tooth or a pain in our bodies or a pain of our heart or some type of emotional pain. It comes with the experience of being a human. But the choice of suffering is our choice. And why is a choice? Because it implies a certain interpretation of the experience and a whole sort of mindset that takes the pain and transforms it into something more severe, more complex, and perhaps even more long-lasting than the pain itself. For example, you might have a pain due to a relationship that has just fallen apart, or you might have a pain that comes from, as I just said, your tooth is somehow broken or something happens. But then a different thing is to start cursing life, cursing the person, cursing the tooth that is somewhat related to that pain. And it's also different thing to hold that sort of interpretation of the negativity of the pain for a longer time than the pain itself. This is something very critical because it is impossible to avoid pain, but it's possible to not choose or avoid suffering. This is something that Buddha, starting with the idea of life is actually suffering, is a very real statement. Life is suffering, but the level of suffering, the depth of suffering, and the time suffering stays with us seems to be pretty much our choice. There are many ways to hack the brain. There are many ways to hack the mindset in order to produce a different consequence that comes from a pain that we face in life. The ways we hack this are several. There are so many types of psychosomatic methodologies. But obviously, the ones that we share and practice here in this class are very effective. You might come into the class with a certain sense of loss, desperation, or lack of clarity and confusion about who you are, what you want, and that produces existential pain, let's call it. But then you go through the class, and at the end of the class, sometimes that is completely gone, or at least has been reduced to a great degree. So this is the invitation for you, for everyone, to see life in a different light. Are we really going to let the pain dictate how we live our lives? Or are we going to choose to narrow down the experience of pain to itself and maintain and build a mindset that keeps us going forward towards our goals and dreams and objectives despite of the pain? There's so many sources of joy in life. There's so many sources of good experiences and happiness in our human existence. The focus that we apply determines how much we experience joy and happiness or how much we experience suffering. It is a matter ultimately of concentration and focus. If we are looking at our wounds and traumas and revolve around them every day, every week, every month, and we keep on doing and revolving around them without finding a way out to resolve them, of course that suffering will be the natural outcome. If we rather face the painful situations and we focus on finding the solutions, because if there's something that is true in life, is that everything has a solution. Everything in life has a solution. Small problems, middle-sized problems, and huge problems. And when we focus on the pain that we experience, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, whether it is existential, and we focus on those things, trying to find the solution, we actually discover the way out. And therefore, the outcome of those pains, the consequence and the length of time it actually stays without is reduced. And the suffering that somewhat we experience can be actually reduced to zero. Some people go through the most traumatizing and painful situations, and they not necessarily go with a smile, but they don't go and keep that suffering the rest of their lives. What's the difference? Why some people can move forward quicker than others? Answer is focus. Where you put your focus, that's where your energy, mental, emotional, spiritual energy will follow. And pain shows us that as we experience it and move away from it, as we learn from it, it sooner or later turns the experience, and one day we experience the opposite. We wouldn't know joy and value joy. We wouldn't know happiness and seek happiness if pain wasn't an experience that we all have. Now, for that to be actually happening, that we move from pain to joy, from pain to happiness, and pursue that as an objective in life, we absolutely have to choose to not suffer. Sometimes we drown in a cup of tea, and we make a whole drama out of small things, out of really insignificant matters that come along our life. And we do it because we have the pattern that has been built, because that's how perhaps our family members have done it, or perhaps how our society, our neighbors, our kin, our culture considers pain to be. And sometimes our cultural settings promote the actual self-infliction of pain. We have seen, probably in movies at least, but there are some old monks that used to be in the monastery hitting their backs to produce pain in order to purge their sins, their negative thoughts, making their life miserable. That's not necessary. Life is already going to give you pain. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to deal with it? Where will you put the focus when it knocks at your door? Will you actually focus on it in order to resolve it and let it go? Or will you add it to a previous narrative of your life to express and explain how miserable life is, enhancing the impact of pain in your life? It's our choice. It's our choice to choose. It's our choice to experience more or less suffering. It's not our choice to experience pain, but it's our choice to experience more or less suffering and take the pain as an experience that propel us towards joy, towards happiness. It is all about, in a way, being a warrior. I'm right now in Ukraine, and it's really inspiring. People are really having a tremendous challenge in their lives, as you know. However, they choose to live with a certain mindset that makes their lives livable. I went yesterday to a university to present Kundalini Yoga, and they are living like warriors in their heads, in their hearts. Okay, I don't want to be unfair because there are many people like this around the world, but this is significantly an example that I am now experiencing in firsthand. We can resolve the pains of our lives. We don't have to live with pain. We don't have to embrace it or marry the pain that we have been born with, the one we inherited, or the one we come across because we twist our ankle.